Alright guys, on page 382, it talks about angles. Now we just talked in our previous lesson about lines and rays, and now we're going to move on and talk about angles. So the term and definition for an angle is, an angle is formed by two rays or line segments that have the same endpoint. The shared endpoint is called the vertex. Okay, so right here in this example, it's got P as an endpoint, Q as an endpoint, and R. And these are rays, right? Because this one has an arrow on the end of it, and this one has an arrow. But they meet together here at a shared endpoint. And so this endpoint right here is called its vertex, that little point where they meet. And so this is an angle, PQR. And angles are always identified by their letters of their endpoints or their line segments. And so this can be called angle PQR. It can be called angle RQP, or it can be simply called angle Q because that is where the angle is formed right there, okay? And the way we write it is we just draw a simple angle that looks just like this, really easy to draw, and you can write angle PQR or angle RQP or angle Q. And here's an example. A slice of pizza is an example of an angle because we have an angle here. We actually could have an angle here and here as well, but so that is an example of an angle. You can name an angle by the vertex, and that's what we did here when we called this angle Q. When you name an angle using 3 points, the vertex, this one always has to be in the middle, okay? So when you call it by all three letters, that vertex has to be in the center. Angles are classified by the size of the opening between the rays. And so we're going to talk about 4 different kinds of angles. A right angle forms a square corner. So it is a straight line going vertically and a straight line going horizontally. And the endpoint, the vertex at where they meet, this has to be a perfectly straight line, and it makes a right angle. And I will go ahead and tell you that this means that this measures at 90 degrees, okay? That's a 90-degree angle. That's a right angle is 90 degrees. A straight angle forms a line. And so this angle here doesn't seem strange because that looks like a line, doesn't it? But this is 180 degrees. An acute angle is going to be smaller than, it's going to come in either this way or this way from a 90-degree angle, which means that this part, if we measured this with a protractor, it would be less than 90 degrees, okay? So we'll put less than 90 degrees there. So it's less than a right angle. It's closed up tighter. An obtuse angle is greater than a right angle, but it's less than a straight line. So if it looks kind of like a straight line, a straight angle, but it's kind of raised up on one side, then this opening here is going to be a larger or wider opening. And so this is going to be greater than 90 degrees, and that's an obtuse angle. So you can always think of, when I was in school, we always tried to remember that an acute angle was tiny, and so you think about tiny and cute. So it's smaller than a right angle. Now, at the bottom of your paper, and you can do this with a sheet of paper of your own. I've already gotten a sheet of paper, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see it. I took my piece of paper, and it says, make a right angle by, sorry about that, make a right angle by using a sheet of paper. Fold the paper twice evenly, so you would fold it hamburger and then hot dog, or hot dog and then hamburger. and then use the right angle to classify the angles below. So what we would do is when we do this, when we fold our paper like this, this is an edge or a line coming down this way, and this is a line coming this way, and we know it's straight. We got it as straight as we possibly could, and so this right here forms a right angle, okay? Just remember what I told you before, a straight vertical line and a straight horizontal line, and where they meet, that should be a right angle, which means it's 90 degrees, okay? So this one is that a right angle, or is it smaller than a right angle or larger than a right angle? If you said larger, then you're correct. This one would be obtuse because it's going to be greater than a right angle. It is very similar to this one here, okay? All right, let's look at this one. Now, even though this is going in totally the opposite direction, you can see here's my vertex right here. Is it measured by a straight up and down, like this right angle? Could I line it up? Let's see. Anyway, and get a right angle? No, this one is going to be smaller. So this one is an acute angle. Let's talk about this one for a minute. Now this one looks kind of close to a right angle, but we can compare it to this. Is it straight up and down, or is it a little bit smaller? If we compared that, it would be a little bit smaller. So this one is also acute angle. I'm sorry, this is also an acute angle. And then this one, we can obviously tell. This right here is the symbol for right angle, so if you ever see that, you know that means it's a right angle. And that will also tell you that it is exactly 90 degrees.